How's the coffee?
Yeah, really good actually.
I'm glad.
Really, really good. I was going to compliment on the little setup and the high shelf.
Yeah, dude. It's cool.
Because the ergonomics of making coffee is so critical, especially when you're doing it for a few hours.
And you're in that like weird hunched position.
And that could just make the difference in how you feel afterwards.
100%.
Yeah.
See, the early days of Coffee Van for me was being 6'3" and having people. I felt like I didn't sell coffee. I sold a conversation with a young, long-haired Yahoo, and the coffee was complimentary. You were paying for 2 minutes of my time, which is about $5, and you get to walk away with the coffee. So I would focus on making sure that I was valuable on the interaction, and then secondary was like, give them coffee, you know? And I think that's the bones of a good business, as far as like, if you can make you attractive, it doesn't really matter what the coffee tastes like, because the coffee's addictive. You know what I mean? Like, the hard part's already done. You're already there. And if you're there and it's like, am I going to have a crap coffee or nothing? You have a crap coffee.
Yeah.
You know?
It's that non-intrinsic value exchange, and which clicks. I think it triggers in people's minds. That's the thing that they walk away thinking about.
That's right.
The coffee was nice, but if the conversation was nicer.
The coffee is the expected, and the conversation took me by surprise.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think also we live in a world where we don't expect people to remember the thing we were talking about last time. And what I now know is like CRM, but back then was relate their name to the thing that you know them for, right? So it's like, you know, the Rulans at AutoSmart, I know they've got like a police background. I know they're interested in footy. Obviously they're interested in, you know, auto cleaning products because that's a business. So it's like, as soon as we get there, register that, you know? It's like, oh, how's your, and what, and this, and you're there making their hot chocolate. You know it's a hot chocolate.
Yeah.
You know, I know 8 years later it's a hot chocolate. I still remember, you know? But that thing, that connection of like, they care about me.
Yeah.
That's what business is, you know?
Personalization. Yeah. It's funny, I was just talking about it earlier in the week. I was speaking at a conference, and the theme was customer or guest experience. This is with a bunch of franchisees from all over the country.
Yep.
They've come together for 2 days, and just to get a bit of a checkpoint, where we at as a group, and then here's some high-level themes from our business that we want to focus on.
Yep.
And then we invited Bash along to talk about one of the things that we do well is, you know, our guest experience. But they had, when I was talking to the CEO of the group back end of last year, he was saying, look, we're going to get you involved in a national conference. It's in end of March, 1st of April.
Yep.
We want your support in helping us becoming consistent, because we've got some franchisees that are doing things amazingly well and then overachieving, over average their sort of KPIs or metrics.
Yep.
We've got a group that's sort of kind of just idle.
Yep.
And then we've got a group that's underperforming. And we know that we're as good as our weakest link.
Yeah, of course.
Excuse me. So I went along, talked about the guest experience. And then I thought, okay, the guest experience, there's so much content out there. Like, anyone can just Google something, you know, what's the top 10 things you should do when you're considering a guest? And so I focused my talk on anticipation of the guest experience. From
the guest?
No, from the host, from
the
business.
Yep.
A lot of these franchisees or franchisors, they're destination venues, so people kind of plan to go there.
Yep.
So the advantage that these franchisors have is they have the details, they have the booking, they have the name, they have the group size.
Okay.
So I was sort of saying to them, well, you know all this great information. How are you meeting these guests? How are you anticipating their needs? Whether it's through, you know, do you welcome them at the door when they come in, or do you wait for them to come up to the counter and check in?
Is the franchise, what industry is the franchise in? Can you say that?
Golf.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, because, speaking from...
They're coming in for a golf experience.
Yeah.
Indoor. And they're coming in to, you know, it could be, there's different reasons. You come in to practice, or you're coming in to try, first time.
Yep.
I haven't played the sport. I don't want to go and embarrass myself on a golf course. I've heard that this is a good way of just...
Yeah.
getting some hitting,
The first step.
or I'm with a group of mates.
Yeah.
We've got an hour.
Half cut, ready to go.
We got a couple of beers, and we
Yeah.
don't want to walk around. It's raining, but we want to catch up. So the demographic they're attracting is varied.
Yeah.
But it's like going into a restaurant. You know, they anticipate your needs. They put the cutlery on the table.
Yeah.
You're there to eat, right?
Yeah.
So I spoke a lot about the guest journey doesn't begin when you walk in the door. The guest journey begins when the awareness, when they start thinking about
Oh, for sure.
that we're gonna. Oh, next Friday I think we're gonna catch up. I'm gonna catch up with Jake. Or let's play golf, but I don't want to
Yeah.
play golf on the golf course. We start thinking about it. So I'm messaging you, going, "Hey mate, I know we're catching up next Friday.
Yeah. Should we do this?
Should we do this?
Yeah.
Why? How does that decision happen?" So there's some form of awareness. I've experienced that place before, or I've read about it. Someone's told me about it. It's new in the town. Oh, we should go and check it out.
Yeah.
So then, now that you've understood that there's an awareness, how do you make sure that in the awareness phase of
Yep.
the guest journey, you're already positioning yourself as a business that's going to bring a value
Right.
and a pleasant experience? And then the challenge would be when they actually physically walk in, when
Yeah.
there's a human interaction.
Kind of at step 2 or 3 by that stage.
You're now stage 3. You're now at the exchange. You're at the real physical value exchange. They're paying and they're experiencing. So that can be broken down into some subsections as well. So we broke down the whole. So it was a whole day kind of exercise that we did on Tuesday, and it was fascinating because you got operators that have been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah. And you almost, I'm guessing some of these people, my initial question here is, what are the standout features of the people who are doing well, the franchisors that are doing well compared to the ones that aren't performing as well?
The simple thing, when I walked in here today, I've dialed the machine in. I've got the machine dialed in, I think you said.
Yeah.
Do you want a coffee? So imagine this being a venue. This is your business.
Yeah.
I'm here to do some business, hypothetically.
Yeah.
And you've got a purchase out of me because it's cold out there today.
Right,
yeah,
right.
I normally would I drink coffee at 2 o'clock?
Probably not. Yeah.
But I thought, I will
Yeah.
actually. It's nice.
Yeah, it's funny actually. On the same vein as that, I've just put, when I call people, especially when I cold call people who I'm trying to get business, I've added right at the start, and this is not through any sort of training or learning, it's just like paying attention to other people's calls. Hey, how you going? Yeah, good. Do you have a moment? Actually asking, am I intruding right now? Because if I am intruding and I start selling to you, you're like, oh, I hate you.
Yeah, I've got time for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, have you got a couple of minutes? And the amount of times people say, I don't, but call me back at this time. And then you call them back at that time, and you've done 60% of the sale already because you've gone, I'm accommodating to you.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm considering your needs.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm respecting your needs.
And also, I've got 90 seconds. Go. Sweet.
Yeah.
Let me tell you all the stuff that matters and nothing else there.
Yeah, let's not
You
let
know?
me dance around the.
Hey, I got this product. It's worth this much. If you get 50 of them, I can do it at this price. Do you want it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll see an invoice right now.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Or if not, I'll speak to you in 6 weeks. Sorry I took up any time.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. It's critical. So to answer your question around what are some of the things that are done well, and the ones that are overachieving their metrics, they're performing, and they're making money, and
Yep.
everything is buzzing. You listen to those operators talk. They've got a mindset. So we touched on mindset a little bit. They go in with, I give a shit. Like, this is my business. This is my livelihood. This is what keeps a roof over my family's head. And
Yeah.
this is my life stream. This is my future.
Yep.
And there's a bit depending on, I'm not just doing this for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
I'm doing this because this is a lifestyle thing for me.
100%.
So you can get that sense when you're talking to them, like they're asking questions, and it's coming directly from the heart. It's not like you're the consultant, you're coming in, let me ask a smart question because I don't want to sound silly.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be some subject matter expert, and
Yep.
then you hear the passion, you hear the story. I'm actually facing these sort of difficulties, but I'm having some really good success, and
Yeah.
very quickly you can kind of gather just the way they talk. I get it. Like I start, like my arm, the hairs on my arm start to
Yeah,
buzz because you go, I'm feeling your energy, mate. Like
Yeah.
I'm really getting what you're saying.
Yeah,
And
this dude stays awake at night thinking about
this
his
guy
business.
is not sleeping. And
Yeah,
he if I want to go play golf in your venue because I know that when I get there, you're going to make my stay amazing.
Yeah.
You're gonna if I said to you it's my birthday, I'm going to turn up and there'll be balloons there, and
Yeah,
I can just see it,
for
right?
sure.
And then you can see the ones that have kind of got into it, not really sure that this is for me, but I heard this could be a good way of making money, or it wasn't my choice, it was my partner's choice, or they kind of stumbled on it.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to sound like I'm generalizing, but there's a clear line between who's doing it and who's not.
Oh, as a business owner, I can sense that line when I'm talking to people.
Yeah.
That are in business, you know?
Yeah.
It's
So-
like someone told you at the start, this is the thing to do, and you listen to them rather than sitting back and going, what do I want to do? And then along the process, as those ebbs and flows come in business as they do, you didn't sit back and go like, okay, well, here's what makes sense. Here's how I feel. Here's where I see this going. Here's my trajectory. It's just like, oh, the money's over there, so I'll do that. The money's over there, so I'll do that. It's like they're the people when they're 60, they're just like, get me out of this thing because I hate it.
Yeah. How do I sell this business?
Yeah. How do I give it away just so I don't have to worry about this problem and that problem that they actually created for themselves but don't have the awareness to understand how it happened?
Yeah.
You know, because I think business is making money. It's not. It's not. I don't even know what business is. I'm 10 years into it and I'm still confused, but I know that it ain't all about making money.
Yeah, correct. The
know?
money will happen. Like, of course, we kind of need it. It's a way of measuring, you know, how we live in certain ways. But if from because this is still quite vivid. It was only a few days ago. The ones that were having success, they're just going that extra mile. Like nothing is ever out of the question. They're actually. We talked about it on the day. They've got the growth mindset. So when they see a challenge, they don't see, oh, this is going to be so hard for me to do. They see it as, oh, this will be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a crack. You know, adversity hits them. The fixed mindset person would say, oh my God, life's over.
Yeah.
This is just too difficult for me. Like it's almost like they curl up and cave in, and then it will require a lot of energy and a lot of support and people around them to sort of unlock people up again.
Yep.
Whereas the ones who've got the growth mindset, they could face 10 adversities, 10 challenges. The way life, they just see it as, right, this is not how I thought today was going to be like. So I'm just going to have to think of a way to carve myself out of this.
Yeah.
And then see it as a, I sound cliche, see it as a lesson, as an experience that I can actually learn how to deal with. If it ever happens again,
Yeah, 100%.
I'm going to be better prepared. I'm not going to say I'm going to have the answers.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be a little bit better prepared.
I think there's something that like sort of aligns with the Christian philosophy of if you want wisdom, then you need challenge. You know, it's like if you really like you sit down, you pray, I ask God for wisdom, and my life doesn't get any harder it doesn't get any harder than what it does in the next 2 weeks because it's like, oh, you want wisdom? Get over this and then come talk to me. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, wiping the sweat off your brow, you're like, I get it.
Yeah.
You know, I am wiser because I had to overcome this challenge.
Yeah.
You know, and I wanted to close the door, blinds down, and just avoid it.
And that's okay sometimes. You know, and that's okay to feel.
Or every 10 you get to do that.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
right. That's
Yeah.
right. It's how do you how you pick yourself up. You know,
Yeah.
and that's sort of. So it was a really interesting day, interesting group dynamic. You've got people who have been in business for quite some time, who've had that wisdom experience, and then you got freshies coming into the group. This is my first conference. I've worked in retail previously. I've done other things. I'm going to throw my hat. So you kind of see the nervous energy in that I'm about to dive into the abyss, the unknown of business. So to corral the group that's got such varied experience and such various yearning and wisdom and experience, to corral them in a direction of few hours to think about, okay, I kept thinking to myself, what's one thing I could send them out? And then I thought, well, there's not going to be one thing for fits everybody.
Yep.
Let's come up with a workshop and where they make their own pledge. And I asked them the question at the end. I said, now we've covered a number of topics. We talked about anticipating the guest experience. We talked about how we break that down, how you can, we role played a few things. So if you're going to take away anything, I want you to just have a few moments now just to reflect on the last few hours and write down the things that really resonated with you. And I talk a lot in my workshops and conferences or leadership sessions that I run about the turkey syndrome. Okay. Something I can't recall where I got it from, but it was the stat is something like 70% of people will attend a training on education, to help them either in their personal life or in business.
Yep.
7 out of 10 people in a room that will go and pay money to go attend a course or listen to a public speaker do nothing different the day after they've attended the course.
Yeah.
Right? So they go in, I'm going to go and invest $1,000 of my business. I'm going to go listen to this sales guru who's going to tell me about sales.
Yeah.
But then they'll go and listen and they'll participate, they'll nod and they'll put their hand up and answer all the questions in the workshop. They jump up with energy and role play and then walk out of the room and something kind of automatically happens and they go back to what they're doing the day before.
That was that. And now I'm back to me.
Oh, I've done the training.
Yeah. I spent the money.
Is the business going to just start to happen now?
Yeah.
And then they got 20% who will leave the room with really positive intention to apply the learning within the 24 to 72 hours.
Yep.
But get distracted by something. Whether it's a personal, something that happened at home, the child had an accident at school, or the wife had a car crash, or whatever.
Yeah.
It takes them off course, and then they don't apply the learning from that training course in 72 hours, and then by then you've forgotten
it's 95%
of the content. It's
gone.
Yeah. And you go, what did Bash say in that session, or what did Jake? What was he talking about? I can't remember. And then you got the 1%, the 10% who will be they're attentive, like they're taking notes.
Yeah. And in the breaks, they're expanding on the notes.
In the breaks, they're expanding. They're challenging the speaker on questions.
Yeah.
And they're playing out scenarios, and you can tell that they're the ones that are going to go in. And
or they go home and
they chew it.
Yeah. How was the thing? You're like, I did close the door and
I'm in the zone. They don't sleep for a day, and then the next day they're in at work. They're making their changes, and I call it the turkey syndrome.
Yep.
And it's actually a thing,
what's the relevance of turkey? How's it a turkey syndrome?
In that people come into a session and they'll nod and and they'll make sounds and as in they're participating with all their heart and energy, but then go out and do nothing. So don't just be a turkey and make lots of loud noises in the room. I'd rather you not say anything in the room, but then you take 2 or 3 things from this session. Go into your business or whatever challenges that you're facing.
Yep.
Make some changes in behavior. Make some changes in process. Apply some of the learning. Now, you may not get the result that you thought you would get automatically, but that change will just sort of take you on a different course that will ultimately get you to where you're trying to head, right?
It's that, I feel like as a business owner, when I sit down with mentors or people who are ahead of me, and you're like, give me the next thing. Because if you're really in business, you're not changing 10 things at a time. You get one thing and you change it 1 degree, and then you set and watch that for the next 6 weeks. And then tomorrow we go, okay, everything's running smoother. Okay, do we need to sweep the floors more often? What's the 1 degree, the 1% we're doing every day? And I feel like those seminars, those types of environments where you're going in and there's going to be a lot of information on offer. And we'd really love to take it all home. We'd really love to implement it, but life is literally not long enough and I have to sleep at some point. What is the one thing that is like a lightning bolt when you hear it and you're like, whoa, that's 100% effective and important to me right now. And I could get up and walk out of the room and act on just this one piece of information. And that is my next month's 1%.
Correct.
I remember I went to one of these bullshit things. They market it as like it's a young business, have to go there and learn and run. And then you go there and you realize he's just selling you something,
a program they have to sign up for.
Whatever it is, you realize it's just making him richer, and you might get richer as well. But also, if you're a real fucking animal, you get rich anyway, right? That you already know intrinsically, even as a speaker, you're like, that dude there, he's dangerous. All the rest of them, maybe. Oh, there's another one.
Yeah, it's the look in your eye. That's the
right.
That's you see it. You see it. So I made these guys write a pledge, and And even go back a little bit, like even we ran three scenarios that we workshopped where they had to actually get uncomfortable, stand up, and
Yep.
go to the other side of the room, see someone they haven't got a relationship with, and stand in neutral position, and then just talk for 5 minutes. Tell a little story about what you do, and then I throw in the exercise. I want you to know how to role play a single guy ringing up, wants to make a booking, never been to your venue.
Yep.
Go. And it was funny, like when you're seeing 40 people in a room, some are younger, some are older, some are in between, and they're role playing. But for whatever reason, whenever you say we're going to do a role play, it takes people, what I've experienced, it takes them into some sort of childhood role play experience that they might have done in primary school.
It's like a novelty over the top, like knocking on the door.
Yeah, so that they focus so much on. I said, look, I want you the scenario, and I wrote down on a piece of paper. Scenario is you're doing a discovery over a phone.
Yep.
So adults are standing in the room workshopping the important part is the conversation, not the fact that you're actually pretending that you got a phone in your hand.
Yeah.
So I'm standing up in the room, like I got the set the task, and off they went. And then I'm looking around the room. There's 40 adults, all with pretend phones.
Yeah.
So I went, hey guys, just so I'm really clear. I'm sorry to interrupt, by the way. Put your hands down.
Yeah, we're talking about the conversation.
I would much rather you go grab a piece of paper and a pen, so your hands are there writing down answers from, the person that you're talking to on the pretend phone.
Yeah.
And then focus on that content, because in real life you're gonna have a speaker, like iPhones have got a speakerphone.
Oh, dude, I'm AirPods walking around in the garden.
AirPods, you're zipping around. You're not really. There's not gonna be too many occasions where you're gonna be holding a physical phone in your hand.
Yeah.
These days, right? And doing the dial. So, or you can't. Oh, the cord's stuck. I can't go anywhere. So they're the things that I find. You're in a room full of business people, and these are successful business people. Let's not mistake this.
Yeah.
But you got to spell out. And then I sort of asked a question in one of the sessions, and I said, hands up if you've conducted any form of discovery training with your team.
Great
in
question.
the last say 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, right.
Right? Not one hand. Yet I said, let's compare this to an AFL player. Can you imagine a professional AFL player not doing any training?
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
then just turning up.
Waiting till game day and hoping
on
that
a
they
Saturday,
can kick straight.
And then I'm going to 80,000 people at the MCG.
Yeah.
They maybe, have got sort of residual fitness or whatever it may be. They're still strong enough. They haven't done but you know what? They're so talented that they can just rock up. Right? They've played 10 years AFL, they haven't trained for 6 months. They're going to rely on that heavy load, just turn up and then expect to kick a bag of goals. It just would not happen, right?
Yeah.
It just would not happen. And so I was like, well, why is that different in the business world? Like if you know that you're in a service industry, if you know that the big part of what brings your customers into your venue is to actually, you got 3 minutes on the phone why don't you practice phone scenarios?
Yeah.
Why don't you just work on...
Yeah, how crazy is that? Even, hey guys, I'm going to have someone call the shop and try and book something in, and they're going to challenge you, and you're not going to know who it is. Everyone's sort of on guard. Never get anyone to call in and just hope that they start selling better. You know what I mean? Like intertwine the training into the game day. It's like... Because I think the thing with the business is you're like, all right, so... We know that it makes sense to invest now in maybe in an hour of after hours training. I want you guys to come in Monday at lunchtime. We're going to go through You have these exercises, you have a desired result, and hopefully they're going to walk away with something with a little bit more honed in ability to sell in that 3 minutes. But I think when business owners go, wait, so I've got to pay 6 people for an hour on Monday and get no return on it. It's like the return, dickhead, is the next 6 weeks
6 years
of them selling the product and also I think the one thing that I like, do you know Ben Yu? He did the One Bunbury project, the book.
Oh yeah. I don't know him personally, but I know who he is. Yeah.
Right. So he interviews you for like 2 hours on camera, taking thousands of photos, and he gets one quote, and he uses one of the photos in the quote, and it's a book of 100 people. So
interesting.
he digs into your story, just
Yeah, yeah.
keeps getting. He was the most recent podcast was actually him.
Okay.
So we're talking about all this stuff, but he the quote, he goes, "What do you think your quote is?" I said, "I think it's this." He goes, "I actually think it's this other thing you said before." And the quote he chose for me is, "Live life as if your life depends on it."
Yeah, right.
And that has been my mantra for the whole time I've been building the business past 5 years. It's just, I do this as if my life depends on it, because, Bash, if I don't get this right, I got to go back to driving trucks. And I fucking hate driving trucks.
I hate driving trucks.
You know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like, as a business owner, if you go, I feel like if you don't have the clarity to see that an investment like that, like at the moment, I'm balls deep in trying to figure out how AI applies to my business. And every time I get an answer, I have no idea what the words mean. I know what the individual words mean, but I don't know what they mean as a sentence.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm just like, there's this major weak spot in my business that I need to focus on. I'm great at printing shirts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm great at selling.
Yeah.
I'm great at marketing, but I have no idea what this thing means. So what do you think I'm doing at the moment?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm learning AI like my life depends on it.
deep diving into
You
it.
know?
Yeah, yeah. That's
And it's like,
interesting.
if you're in golf,
Yeah.
brother, it's not even that hard.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Well, it depends who you ask. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think there's an element of, and this is where I strip it all back. What are the ingredients? What are the things, that make someone good at what they do, or successful in life or in business or whatever? There's no such. To me, it comes down to some simple things. How do you wake up? Like your mindset that you go into. Once you get that fear element of trying something new or having a crack at something, or opening the door and walking into a room full of strangers, once you get comfortable with the fact that you're comfortable with yourself, that you're going to be okay regardless of what happens today, I'm still going to go home. No doubt. I'm going to sit down with my family, I'm going to have a meal, and we're going to talk about how school was and et cetera. That's kind of the baseline.
Yeah.
Have a shot at it. Make it a great day. Ask some real good questions,
Yeah.
And so, and it was interesting. I even said at the end of the training course, I gave them the whole turkey syndrome sort of spiel that, which part of that percentage
Do you think you
do
fit
you
into?
think you fit into? Are you the 10% that's going to actually go in and apply? I know what the stats are. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I even gave an example where I've gone into a training session with a group of businesses that I've never dealt business before. I've been asked to come in to do a workshop.
Yep.
And I'll give them, say, here's my phone number. Now, anyone that rings it within the next 72 hours, I'm going to give you a free half-an-hour consultation. It could be just maybe a phone call about the day today that we spent together, and you want some feedback or ask me some questions, or you know what, complete stranger that you just want to sort of download on to go, I'm dealing with this difficult scenario at home and I don't know how to deal with it. And do you have an opinion on it? And the same percentage in the turkey syndrome apply for this. No attachment, no expectations. If you send me a text and say, hey, I'm free next Thursday at 11:15. If I'm free at 11:15, I will call you for half an hour and we'll just chat.
Yep.
As a thank you for taking the offer.
Yeah.
And then if that turns into a business conversation, then by all means, I'll kind of just so be it. But it's funny how still only about 10% of people will actually take the number and actually send you a message. And out of that 10%, let's say there's 100 people or 50 people, there's 5 that would take the number and call. Out of the 5, there's only another 10 or 20% that will actually, they may send a message, say, thank you, I got your number and I'll give you a buzz, but then nothing happens. It comes down to 1 or 2 people who actually ring and say, really loved what you said. Thank you for actually offering this. Can I use up the next 29 minutes to pressure test some ideas?
Yeah.
And then, by the way, this is what I'm thinking. I'd like you to come and see my business and help my team or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So I lay that up front. Like I just say, at the end of the session today, I'm going to leave my number on the board for anyone that wants to grab it. Feel free.
Yep.
All I ask is just don't ring me at the middle of the night when you're out having a few drinks.
Yeah, that ain't the time.
You know, that's not the type of call. Yeah. Don't ask me to, you know, if I'm partying somewhere or anything. Just
hey,
sort of,
can you give me a lift back?
Yeah, can you pick me up? Can you pick me up from the hotel? Like, you know, no, it's not an Uber. But if you just want to have a chat about business, chat about life, any challenges or any opportunities, anything that you want to soundboard with somebody who's done 20 years of business, please, I'm happy to. And to me, I find that as a way of putting back in to the group that just hired me to come and do a session. Like it's a continued value that just, I'm not just going to turn up for the day and say, oh, thank you and see ya.
Yeah.
You've got my interest. I'm here. I've learned about you. I'm actually quite intrigued to see how you go after this.
I think there's an intrinsic thing with business owners as well, especially like the, you know, I don't know what the word is, but the ones we're talking about, the 1 to 5% of like pure savages that are like, oh, this is a millionaire, billionaire in the making. They just got to get through the steps, right? Those are the people that, and I put myself in that category, like 100% without doubt, put myself in that category. And the other people in that category that are ahead of me, they know that you're one of them because you ask the right questions and you do it fearlessly. You know, even if it's a stupid question, you're like, oh, probably a stupid question, but this, right? And they're like, no, but let me explain why you're wrong. You know, and it's an effortless response because it's like, I know you're not going to waste my time with the information I give you, so here it is for free. You know, and exactly the same. I know, like right at the moment, Bunbury's tiny. You know, like I can tell you who these people are for me, and I can tell you the people who are coming up right now that are looking at me like I've got something figured out. 'Cause I got a little bit figured out. I do,
no doubt.
You know, I got a little bit figured out. And when they come to me and they're asking all this stuff, it's like, can I be honest with you? 9 of those 10 questions are stupid. I'm not going to answer them. But this one here, that's a good question. Ask more like that, and here's the answer to it.
Yeah, and here's some of the things I've tripped over on that it's funny, even with the coffee van that I've got going, right? There's a business imagine like a little business center where there's 10 or 12 offices, different businesses,
right?
And they all have between say 5 to 30 employees.
Beautiful.
And they're in one location. Like imagine like the Homemaker Centre here in Bunbury. This is like a little centre in Cheltenham, around the corner from where I live in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that runs an egg business, who's a good friend of mine, when I got the van, I was just telling him about it. He goes, "Oh, mate, bring your bloody van in, and then do a door knock." And I know half the businesses that are there in this complex. There's nothing around us, you know. And I don't know. I'm not sure where they get their coffees from, but it may be a good opportunity. So I said, "No worries. You know what? I'll
take you up on that."
He gave me a piece of his heart, his thoughts. Thought this is a guy that I play tennis with and I'm really close to, and he's a good mate. I'll come down, I'll make you a coffee, and then I'll do exactly what you suggested.
Yeah.
So I rocked up, knocked on a few doors. Fast forward, what are we, 8-9 months in now? I'm there every Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah.
Right? I've
got to just ripping 50 coffees in bloody 50 minutes as well.
It's 45-minute stop, and then it's become what I realised in that little process is that some of these business owners, workers, employees don't even know who the business across the car park from them does or is.
Yeah.
Now that the van is there every Monday, Tuesday morning, got the little magnet speaker. I just put some chill tunes while I'm making coffee. It's more for me just to get in the zone. And they come out and it's a sunny day. They stay, they hover, and they chat. One of the young fellas in one of the businesses comes up to me a few weeks back and he says, "Oh, Bash, I'm really sorry, but I'm going to take some business away from you." I said, "Dude, like, tell me more.
What do you got?
What are we doing? Can we go in partnerships? Can we collab?
Yeah.
Like, you know, what? Like, I was like, mate, you're not taking anything from me."
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, I bought a coffee machine for the office."
All right.
I said, "Sweet. What machine did you get?" And he goes, "Oh, it's a Breville something or something." I said, "Man, like that's like a $500, $700 machine." He goes, "Oh, it was on special. I got it for $800 and I got a little grinder with it." I said, "Has anyone shown you how to dial in the grind?" When I said those words, like you and I, we've done coffee, so you kind of go, "Oh, okay, I know what that means."
Yeah.
He just looked at me like I had this blank look on his face.
Yeah.
And I said, "What I mean by that is, has someone showed you how to set the grinder?"
Yeah, what to look for, what to
do.
look
for. And he goes, "Oh," no, I said, without me seeing it, without me prying onto your lunchroom, I'm going to close my eyes. I want you to describe to me when you put the coffee in the grip handle and you rip it, you push the button.
What comes out?
What does it look like? What is it?
Bubbly black water. Yeah.
Right?
Perfect.
I said, "Okay, I said, I know where you're at. I said, I'm not going to charge you. I'm going to make you coffee here. Thank you for coming out and telling me. And by the way, mate, it's all good. Like, please don't be upset. But if I come up and you don't come out anymore, I know that your coffee is.
Yeah, you dial it in. You're good.
You know, I'm going to come and check in on you.
Yeah.
And his face was like, I think he thought I was going to go, what? I'm going to have like, what do you mean he bought a coffee machine? Yeah. So I showed him, I did a pour out of my machine. I showed him, I said, grab the coffee, rub it on your fingers, did the brown, the stain on your finger test. And he goes, oh, no, my coffee's not feeling like this.
Yeah.
I said, mate, if you want me to come and check out your machine for you, I'm happy to. And there was a couple of guys that were obviously there. And like when he walked out, he goes, what are you doing that for?
Because you don't understand business, kid. That's why.
And they're younger guys, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, he just said that he's not going to buy any coffee from you. Like,
yeah.
I said, he's not buying coffee from me because he doesn't like my coffee. He's doing that because he's thinking $5 a day, 5 days a week is $25. Times that by 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That's $100. That's $100 I'm maybe saving to buy his new computer or
whatever
him and
it
his
might be.
partner.
Yeah.
It might be something important to him. So I love drinking coffee. I know what that experience brings to me every morning, that ritual, that routine, the chat with the colleagues and friends.
Yeah.
I know that's important to me, and that's why I'm doing this, because this is a passion, hobby, job, that whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that he's setting up the machine the right way, because if he's going to have a coffee and he's enjoyed having coffee with me, I want him to continue that enjoyment, because I know 1 day or 2 days, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to forecast this. He's going to be driving to work. He's going to get to the office because he's busy thinking about work, and he's going to go to make his coffee. He's going, oh shit, I didn't buy the milk, or I ran out of beans because someone last night used the last bit of the bean.
Yeah.
And guess what? At that morning, I'll be there in my normal routine, Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, it's just easy to see Bash.
He's just going to come out and just going to buy a coffee, right?
Yeah. Don't tell him about back flushing for another couple of months.
I just let the machine get so dirty.
Yeah.
I
don't know, it tastes like crap. I don't know why.
It's really burnt. I'm not going to lift the lid on the group handle at all, right? So anyway, this is a few weeks back. So I went in there, and his name is Brian. I said, Brian, how you going, mate? Like, let me have a look. It was a fully almost automated type Breville machine. It's a great little machine, right? If you got one at home on your kitchen bench and you don't understand how to make coffee properly, this is kind of the fool's way of making a half decent cup of coffee. And I explained to him, I said, there's no coffee supplier going to sell you a shit bean. If it comes in a bag and someone's packaged it, they've gone on the effort to buy it, distribute it, find someone to roast it, etc.
Yeah.
And you just got to cook it the right way, right? So I adjusted the grind for him, got the mouse tail coming out of his grip handle.
Yeah.
Now I said the next bit is the milk. I said, you just play with that, mate.
Also, just watch a YouTube video for that one.
You can just YouTube anything, and you'll get 5 tips on that. And his colleagues, they're all like sort of watching me, showing him how to do a couple of little things. And one of them yelled out, he goes, oh, you're unbelievable. Like, you're just giving up all your trade secrets. I said, that's what you think. Making the coffee, anyone can learn how to do that.
Yeah.
My trade secret, you'll never get, because you don't know what conversations I'm having with people.
Correct.
Whatever conversation I had with you yesterday, it's not the same. I'm not repeating the same conversation with every person. I just go like what you're doing right here. You just
free flow,
push the button on and have a conversation, and then something will trigger next time we see each other. I mean, even while we're here today, I think it was over a year ago when you were in Melbourne, and you said, "Oh, you should I'm doing this podcast thing. You should come and have a chat."
Yeah.
And I remember you saying that. I'm going, I think we sound like fun.
Yeah.
Let's do that. And here we are.
By the way, this is the most fun. This is the thing that takes the most amount of time, that makes the least amount of money, that gives me the most reward emotionally. Like, I love talking to people. I love having interesting conversations, and the more you do it, the more the interesting conversations get, because the more not high caliber, but the more interesting people you can then ask and say, hey,
do you want to
come sit down and have a conversation and shoot the shit for an hour or 2 hours and see what we come up with. And you might have a stale 1 to 20 minutes getting the ball rolling. And then when you're in,
it's in.
You're in.
Yeah, it's in. It's in. Yeah,
unfortunately, I've got to stop this and print shirts to keep the roof over my head. You know what I mean?
I'll make some coffees and we'll sell to the neighbours.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, look, it's fast forward a few weeks, and these guys on not this week, the week before, when I was doing the coffee run where they are. lo and behold, the scenario I gave you before, I parked up. And I park up and I toot.
Yep.
And then I knock on a few windows, say, I'm here for the next 45. If you want to, if they're on the phone, if you want a coffee, come out. You know? And out comes Brian, you know, walks up and he looked a bit like, I said, mate, I didn't expect you to be here.
Yeah.
He goes, run out of milk.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
There's a tax on it, Brian.
Your coffee's gone up $1 today, you know. But
did you learn a lesson?
Yeah. So, but it's so cool, like because you know, you lose one in that. I kind of thought to myself, okay, that's Brian, and there's a couple other guys in there. If they're all not buying their coffee, what does that mean for my numbers on that morning? But because I truly believe, you know, similar to what we had conversation last time, there's a higher being. There's something that, you know, when you put energy out, whatever energy you put out, energy like that will always come back to you.
Dude, if you want to make money, you spend money.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works, but I have this, you know, I get to the end of the overdraft, or I get to the end of the week and I made no money. I'm like, oh no, we won't. Don't fuel up the car. Don't do this. Trust me. Max the overdraft out, and then the job comes in and they pay straight away. It happens every time. I don't know how.
Yeah.
But it works.
I think there's an element of letting go. There's an element of putting goodwill out. You know, the karma or whatever language and whatever religion or whatever way you view life. There's something about when you give openly and with just an open heart. Yeah, I think that energy rubs off on people, and in that same period of time when, you know, Brian said, hey, I'm gonna not buy any more coffees from you, mate. I love your coffee, but I've got a machine. One of the other offices have just put on 4 or 5 new people. Yeah,
of course.
Right? So
it's fine, you know.
And then they turned up and they're like, oh, I'm new here. I've just started my shift. What days do you come?
Yeah.
I said, hey, listen, I've got a group text message from different people from different businesses.
Yeah.
I can chuck you on that group message so you know what days I'm here.
Yep.
Or you can just jump on Instagram and see where I'm at. I usually put a post up, or here's my number. If you want a coffee, just call. If I'm in the area, I'll swing by. Like there's no formula, there's no set. Yeah. You know, 98% of weeks, Monday, Tuesday morning, from 8:15 till 9:30. That's the window that I'll drive past this block,
this area, yeah.
And I'll be in. And usually, if I'm in and I haven't got your number, I'll toot and you'll hear me, or you'll see others coming down. So
yeah.
And these people are just like, oh, how great. So numbers haven't changed.
Yeah.
Still between 12 to 40 coffees, depending on who's in, who's not, who's got workshops, who's out working off site, or who's working from home, or whatever.
It's giving me wild flashbacks of all the little things I forgot about having a coffee van.
Yeah.
You know?
So it was, and then, but the amount of, you know, from that regular cycle of turning up, having a smile.
Yeah.
You see the ones that have had a rough day before. They're not their chirpy normal self.
Yeah.
Or they're in their heads for whatever meeting they just walked out of. You know, they're either vaping, having a cigarette, or they're just in a zone.
Yeah.
And then the days where they come in, they're just bouncing,
beaming. Yeah.
They've had a great deal. They've just sold something, or made some money, or whatever it may be, or a family milestone. So many recommendations, so many bookings from there that have generated because you become the most consistent thing in their working.
Yeah, dude, and you're their legal drug dealer.
Yeah,
you're their legal drug. They're addicted to your product, and you're the one who brings it. You know,
yeah, correct.
I always used to make this joke that, you know, I'm the plug. I'm the hookup.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You're having a bad day, call me.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I'll make your functions better.
As I said, the coffee doesn't even have to be good.
Yeah.
As long as I rock up.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And I used to. It's funny. I actually posted a throwback this morning of like 15 of my old photos from when I had the coffee van, because my feed is just full of these clips.
Yeah.
I'm like, here's a throwback, what they call it, Flashback Friday. A bunch of pictures from the coffee van days with customers playing around. I used to wear the loudest, craziest stuff. And I remember when I was looking at one of these photos this morning, I used to do this thing where I would, I knew the handbrake in this Hilux so well that I would pull up. I knew the exact right amount of speed. I'd pull the handbrake up. The car would still be rolling. I'd go out of the door, close it, and be walking around to the back of the van as it stops, and have the door open as a final movement, and straight onto the group handle.
Wow.
You know, and I had the whole thing. Group handle, bang, bang. I might have like thrown it to my left hand, grabbed the tamp,
Yeah.
flicked that up in the air, scrub, catch. Like I had a full routine.
Yeah.
You know, how are you?
Flaring.
Yeah. And you know, now it's the trajectory of like where this whole business has been and going to. The network that I have now, the foundation of that network is people that I used to sell coffee to. Crazy. You know, so that trust element of like he shows up at 9 o'clock every Tuesday and Thursday now translates into like I had a dude, I went to an event last night. He's wearing a hoodie that I made. He goes, I'm like, yeah, nice hat, nice hoodie. You need another one? He's like, I do. I said, you know what you need is the ZT467. It's a tradie hood structured. It would suit you a lot better than the AS relax hood. He goes, oh, you know, let me have a look at them. We'll do the thing. So where do you think I was at 8:30 this morning when he got to work? Here it is, rip one out of the bag. Here's how it's going to look. We got to put this, that, and the other. And he had an invoice for the test that he wants in the next hour and a half.
Cooked.
You know?
Done.
So it's like, and that there is like, do you know how effortless that sale is when the trust is inbuilt? The communication is not even something that we're thinking about. It's happening.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that word trust, and you just reminded me of, going back maybe 15 years, I was working at Coke and we'd gone to this, they flew business managers from every state and location to a location in Sydney where they bought this subject matter expert on relationship management.
Right.
And this guy was like the guru of it, right? He talked about how most business-to-business relationships sit on a pyramid. The pyramid has 3 layers. 70% of all B2B relationships sit in the transactional stage,
Right.
where people talk about, I've got the most amazing relationship with the buyer or the seller, but they're only buying because you're the brand of choice they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a nice guy, you're a nice girl, and you're pleasant to deal with. But it's a real transactional. There's a value exchange, and it's based on a transaction. I spend this much with you, you give me this much product. We do it in a pleasant way. The product gets delivered on time, gets accurately invoiced. Come back again 2 weeks later, we do the same thing. And then every year we go, hey, how much did I buy? Oh, you bought X amount. I bought more than last year. Do I get a better discount next year?
What can you do?
Oh, yeah, we review the pricing, and then, you know, our cost of goods go up. So we go to you and say, hey, listen, you bought X amount. Unfortunately, I have to give you a price rise this year because the price of all the materials have gone up, and you know, we're not making any money, so I need you to, you know, pay a little bit more, and then you can just pass that price on. And then he talked about the next tier of relationship is the collaborative. This is where people start getting into the nitty-gritties of understanding each other's business. There's multiple points of contact. There's usually a point guard of the relationship. There's a gatekeeper, and then behind them sits, you know, the support functions to make the relationship tick.
Yep.
Oh, you want some marketing? Oh, I've got a marketing expert in my business. How about I connect with your marketing guy and they can do ads together?
Okay.
You know, so there's collaboration that's happening.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, your commercial manager. You can talk to my finance guy.
How common is this?
Oh, in big business, account management, this is quite
A
quite
standard.
the norm. This is kind of the standard of relationship management.
Yep.
But where the real good stuff happens, where there's, you know, when you see, like you see it on television or you see it and, you know, you read about it, where there's businesses like large scale multinationals who are sponsoring, say, a sporting event, and they're the Toyota and AFL, for example. Like you think about, you know, the long term relationship that's been going on for decades,
Forever, and will go on forever.
and then how does that happen? Well, why does Toyota always come back and then AFL every year, no doubt, go back and say, hey, it's now worth X more. Don't, no worries, here it is. There's 2 things that happens in relationships, and this is what at the end of a week course and another 10 years of life experience that we've worked out that 2 ingredients to any relationship is trust and accountability.
Right.
Now, you take those 2 things, and what do they mean? Right? So, and how do they lubricate business? How do they... In a personal relationship, if you haven't got trust or accountability, if you can't be trusted, then there's no relationship. If you can be trusted but you're not accountable to your action,
What's it worth?
You're not going to be trusted. Like it's kind of like...
hand in hand.
They come in hand, and I spent, you know, 6-7 years going around the country talking to small, medium-sized enterprise about, with your team, is there trust of your team? Do you make them accountable, and are you accountable to them? When they need you the most, do you back them? or do you see them as transactions?
Interesting.
Right? And then when the relationships that have worked out the trust and accountability formula, they get it, you know, layers of complex conversations get unlocked, challenges that businesses face in each other, whether it's, oh God, you know, Jake's going to be my jumper guy, but Jake's supplier has just gone out of business, and that jumper, the XXX with this fancy zip that he says he's going to make me 1,000 of it next year, he just rang me and said, doesn't have it available. But that's the jumper that I've promised my guys that they're going to be wearing for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
I've just went out and told them.
You're in trouble.
Their names are going to be put on it, and they're going to have their coloured zip bespoke to their needs.
Yeah.
So how do we unlock this problem? But imagine that times that by a few extra zeros, so the value of that exchange or whatever the deal is can get really hairy, right? Yeah. But when there's trust and accountability, there's no fear. Jake picks up the phone. He comes into Bash's office. He said, mate, we've just spent 6 months designing this bespoke jumper. We're 9 out of the 10 steps through the production, but it's completely fallen on its ass. This is going to cost us money and time, and I now have to go and survey 1,000 of your team members again because I've got another but because I trust you and I know you got the best interest of my business, I know you're always going to be accountable. And the fact that you came in and told me this without hiding it or trying to bullshit your way through it,
transparency,
or I order the 1,000 hoodies with the zip that I want, and then 1,000 hoodies with no zip turn up.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, now you're like, mate, we've been doing business together for how long? And you couldn't tell me that there was a problem?
Yeah.
I could have just bought you more time to say, oh, Jake, no problem, mate. Instead of the deadline being next Thursday, let's make it Thursday in 6 months.
You know, there's something that rings here, you add on the zeros and it gets more hairy. I'm printing jumpers up. My life depends on it. And I face these problems that are this big all the time. And I now know the skill of calling the customer and you're not going to believe this. Here's what's happening. But this isn't a full stop. This is an update.
Yeah.
Right?
Keeping you in the loop.
Yeah, keeping you in the loop. Here's what's going on. I said 10 days delivery. It's looking more like 13. It's literally out of my hands, but here's what I'm doing. And 99 out of 100 times, it's, yeah, dude, what are you worried about? You know? But that's fine because you told me. But they don't tell you the because you told me part. But if you assume that trust is there and that trust is goes without saying, 100% not the case, because then when you're day 11 and you know it's 13 and they're expecting 10, now you're the bad guy. And I think that those extra zeros, it's the same as, you always have debt in business, you just get more zeros at the end.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think then when I'm in the position where I'm like, hey, Bash, these 1,000 hoods with all the zips, here's what the situation is. And I don't exactly know how we're going to fix it, but I've got a few different options that are floating around in my mind. Do you want to talk about them? Probably not. It's complex, it's detailed. I'll let you know when the problem is either on its way to being solved or solved.
Here's the solutions.
Yeah.
Here's 3 ideas that I think is going to solve this issue for us. But out of courtesy, I'm just letting you know. And the other rule of business that I've always sort of learnt and have become now a conduit of is the rule of no surprises. Good or bad.
I like that.
Good or bad. If I'm leading a team of 100 people, but I've got 10 direct reports and then the other 90 are reporting into those 10, I'm not going to be across every single conversation on a day-to-day basis. I'm relying on the 10 that report into me to give me status updates of where their business unit is or where their stream of business is performing, and then I update the next level,
right,
on a level summary. And I always say to my guys, and the last multinational role that I held was I had 11 direct reports, and they're all managing large multi-million portfolios, and I had people under them. We had we call the 3 R's: routines, rhythm, and rituals. So one of the routines was every Monday, every Tuesday, we'd have a one-on-one with my direct reports, and it was a 2-way conversation and minuted in OneNote file that we shared, and then that way we always knew where we were at.
Yep. So
if I needed, let's say they got 3 initiatives that they're reporting to me on, they report them in the conversation, whether it's face-to-face or via Zoom or Teams, and we record the high-level summary of that conversation with the status that it's at, like a CRM.
Yeah.
And then if between Monday today and the next Monday, if I'll get a brain fart and I think, oh shit, what did Jake say to me about that customer and that problem. Instead of me bothering Jake again, I used to go into the OneNote and go, oh, that's right, got it.
Right.
And then vice versa, if I left some feedback on that initiative, instead of bothering me, I wasn't paying quite attention and I'm now in a meeting and I can't answer the phone and you can't get hold of me and you really need to know the answer, they can go back to refer. And so we had these rhythms and routines and rituals.
I really like that, by the way, those 3 hours.
Right. And then, so we just maintained these sort of expectations, and it just created this clarity, this ease of, they were trusted to go get the job done, guys. Like, I don't need to be across, because Mum, you're reporting to me, I'm your manager. I'm your peer. I've got jobs that I've got to do as well.
Yeah.
They have maybe different responsibilities or different themes, but we're here together. Call me if you need help. But between now and next Monday, just go hard. Like, go knock yourself out and then feed the information through.
Yep.
Set that rhythm with your 5 or 6 or 7 people that report into you as well. And we just had this dynamic where consistency was always, everyone was running the same way, right? Everyone's same direction. You're
also like tying in what do you call it when it's like I'm giving you enough lead to make decisions and to take some reasonable risk in your decisions as well, without going like, Dad, can I do this?
Just do it, mate.
Yeah.
Do it. Like, there's no fear, and if you get it wrong, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna. If you make it, I've been in that role before, like you, and I've learned certain skills, and so, but I want you to learn them. And if you go through an experience and we correct the behaviour, and then you go and fall in the same pothole again, now it becomes like, oh, look.
What's going on?
What's happening? Is everything okay? Because we haven't dealt with this last week.
I noticed you backed into that pole for the third time.
And then the third time you kind of go, come on, like what is really happening here?
Yeah.
And you start then performance managing. You start going, okay, is there something else outside of day-on-day routines? So
just so there's some clarity for the listeners, because you're not. I wouldn't say Bash Riachi is the most well-known name around Bunbury, for my audience. You have a coffee van at the moment. Well, let's talk a little bit about how you got to having a coffee van. What does the last 20 years look like for you?
Oh, God.
Elevator pitch, not...
Yeah. Look, 2 or 3 years ago, I finished a corporate role. I was like, okay, well, what's next? It hit that 20-year mark in corporate, and my brother, who is here in Bunbury and who took a similar type during COVID, just post-COVID, life-changing, decision from a work perspective.
Yeah.
He was just became unhappy, I guess, in the way his work life was going, and felt like he needed to change. So, and he was always passionate about food and food trucks, and we grew up as a hospitality family in this town, and so kind of like a full circle moment. So he said, I'm gonna buy a food truck. I was like, what? Like,
where's this coming from?
Where's this coming from? My initial reaction, and I kind of went, you've always, in a way, I wasn't surprised, because he's always had this theme in him. He always liked caravans, and he likes like service, and he was very serviceable in what he did.
Yeah.
So then I've watched him take the journey, and whenever I'd come visit, I'd put the shirt on and I'd jump in, and I found it was a really good way to catch up with as many friends that I used to hang out with here in Bunbury, and in a day or two,
and you get to talk
in a few hours, and you get to actually have a coffee, have a chat. And there was something that really, our family is all hospitality. We grew up in service industries, So, and having worked,
I feel like Lebanese as well is very accommodating.
Yeah, hospitality is just what Lebanese are renowned for. Come in, sit down, have something to eat, have something to drink. And like, you just asked me 5 minutes ago, I'm okay.
Dude, this is Nick to a T as well. Like every time you go to the coffee van, it's like, I've had enough lollies, dude. Please stop giving them to me.
Sugar. Yeah. So, and I noticed how much joy he was having in serving people.
Yeah.
And the money and the revenue and whatever it is, and he was having success there as well. And it was like, so it got me thinking. I thought, I've taken this sort of decision to get out of the big roles and big corporates. I don't want to just sit at home and do nothing. I could play golf for a few months and spend my savings, or I could do something productive and just get re-energized for what's next. So I said, and Nick had sort of come across a second van, and I said, why don't you just flick one over to Melbourne?
Yeah.
And I feel like I had a really nice community around where where I'm living, my family, and yeah, in July last year, it was just, he chucked one van on a truck, and
So you're coming up to a year.
coming up to a year, yeah, and rang you and said, hey, can you make me half a dozen shirts, and off we went, and now I spend, and I've had a sole trader, ABN, and now I'm doing a lot of short term contract.
Yep.
I guess you call it consulting,
and that's based off your experience in corporate.
Yeah. So I go into small, medium enterprise. They could be needing help to scale up, or they can't afford to have a full-time sales specialist in their business or marketing specialist in their business, but they've got enough. They see the need for that expertise, so we find a way to, make my time, efficient and
it's valuable
to them, but then come up with whatever they need from a content perspective.
Yep.
Whether it's a strategy document potentially for some clients, or like for the one I worked last week was a one-off guest speaking motivational type workshop with a bunch of their key stakeholders.
It sounds like you really get a lot from that consultancy-esque sort of work as well.
Yeah, I see it as I've got an education background, and I've sort of jokingly and sort of lightheartedly said to people, once I left the classroom, 20 so years ago to go into business, I've done more teaching in corporate life and in business life than I would have dreamt of doing, even though I was a full-time teacher.
Yeah.
So the last 12 months I reignited my teaching license. I've done some casual relief work. I've gone back into primary schools. I thought I really want to pressure test my ability to connect with a younger generation. Can I walk into a room of 12-year-olds and be able to tell them a story and get their attention and educate, and so I do it like sparingly, but it's amazing how much energy I've gained, just some clarity in the mind. Not that I thought I was unclear or I needed clarity. It's just taking that risk.
Yeah.
Calculated risk of I'm going to make myself uncomfortable again, because that's when you learn the most. So I'm doing it with a safety net. I'm doing it into worlds that I've tapped into or had worked in before, but it's been a number of years.
Definitely changed.
There's so much, like technology's changed. Children learn in different ways now. It's all computer-based and everything is digital.
Yeah.
So being able to, instead of having a blackboard or whiteboard to write on, they have digital boards and you touch screens, and
wow.
So you have to then I gotta demonstrate. Where's the whiteboard marker? Oh, there's no whiteboards. There's just a touch screen.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay, quickly navigate around that. But there's things that you don't lose, like the ability to captivate through imagination and through younger children. They just want to hear noises and they want to know that you're a cool dude. And you connect really quickly through whatever common themes they like. And I've got 2-step children, so I use that. Oh, my son does this and my stepson does that.
Yeah.
What do you do? Do you play basketball? Because I've got a young fellow at home, he plays basketball. And they go, oh, yeah, I shoot hoops. Who's your favourite player? And then...
bridge the gap and off you go.
Yeah, so that's how the coffee event came about. So now it's like a side hustle, a couple of mornings a week, a weekend sporting events. But through that, I'm actually picking up consulting work.
Left, right and centre, because you're talking to businesses.
You come in, you got a stakeholder or an MD of a business who's coming to watching their son play tennis, and they're buying a coffee, and then in that conversation, how long have you been doing this? So a few months, and what did you do before that? And you're in business. Do you know so-and-so? And like, yeah, we played golf together a few weeks back. And
huge.
Oh my God, like the worlds start to connect and
unlock
opportunities.
Typically the narrative leaving corporate is like, I'm glad to have that behind me, but it sounds like there was a lot of things about corporate that were quite, like, you're very geared to the big business sort of way of thinking. Do you miss that environment?
Yeah, elements, and I don't think I didn't leave corporate, and I don't think corporate's left me. It's like I never left teaching. The way I've learnt to view things is life will throw things at you.
Right.
And you have these opportunities to turn up every day and perform, whether it's a job in a company or a job in your own business. What you do with it and what relationships you build. I guess I've been fortunate and lucky that I just grew up in an environment, Jake, where my parents, struggling migrants who came to this country, were trying to make a crack of it, what did they do? They didn't have any special skill set or special training. You know, they bought a cafe.
Yeah.
They never owned a cafe before.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, hey?
Right? Like, they've never done that before. So it was
Yeah.
like, I can just remember, like, you know, Dad said, I bought a cafe. We're going into business.
Yeah.
I was 10 years old, 11 years old. I'm like going, oh, that sounds like fun. We get free food.
Yeah,
like, you know.
yeah.
But then that became all of our life.
Yeah.
You know, I remember going, I think I might have told that story last time. I remember going to my first job at the Lord Forest in Bunbury. I just turned 18, skinny whippersnipper.
Yeah.
Not served a beer in my entire life other than, you know, family parties and, you know, hosting friends and Dad yelling out, grab us a couple of beers in the fridge. And
Yeah.
that was the only service. And then in the cafe, we made milkshakes and take a plate out, wash a plate, do the dishes, help me bring the veggies in, peel the potatoes, peel the carrots. Like, that was the kind of the experience that I'd had.
Yeah.
I walked into the, you know, I remember the lady interview, Barbara Carey, love her, God bless her, amazing operator at the time. So, Bash, you know, your family owns a cafe and, you know, how many years experience have you got?
Yeah.
You're applying for a bartender job in one of the busiest cocktail bars in the town. And I just sort of looked her in the eye and I said, oh, I've got 8 years experience.
Yeah.
I was 18.
Yeah, cool.
And she goes, well, how?
Yeah.
You know, so to me, it's been all these experiences. Answering your question, what do I miss corporate? I miss the camaraderie.
Yeah.
I miss the people that are like-minded business minds and people that I looked up to and worked with and people that I worked for and they worked for me. We built these cultures.
Yeah.
These pockets of time that you spend together with people where you go into battle with on a negotiation with a big deal and
Yeah.
the rush of getting that deal across the line and getting a contract signed for 5 years. They're going to buy your products and there's going to be millions of dollars going to come in.
Yeah.
You know, there's an element of, you know, excitement.
Yeah.
You know, like white line fever, like a sporting type level of, yes, come on, let's do this. And then you miss that. When you go into your own business, there's lonely days, right?
Yeah.
There's days where, am I making the right decision? You know, and then there's days where you meet a customer and you have a great conversation and you come home, haven't sold anything, but God, it feels amazing.
Yeah.
Life is great. So, but I'm lucky that my worlds all collide. So when I got last year, when I said I'm going to go back in the classroom, I want to get my teaching license. It's not even a teaching license. I thought, can I go and teach in Victoria? I was licensed in WA. So then I rang the Victorian Education Department. I said, I'm a teacher and haven't taught for 20 years. Can I teach?
Yeah.
Yes, you can. Do you have a record of a statement of your results can you prove that you've done teaching?
Yeah.
So, yeah. On file, I shared it. Okay, you need a working with children pass or license.
Yep.
So that's a police check. You put in whatever dollar fee it was and fill out the application form and they tell you that you've got no criminal record and yep, you're good.
Yep.
And then the next question was, do you want to go back into full-time roles and work as a full-time teacher? And I was like, that's a huge step.
Yeah.
I just want to dip my toes.
One thing at a time.
I just want to be able to go and do some relief work because I thought maybe 1 day a week, 2 days a week. And they said, do I just ring the local schools?
Yeah.
Like how does relief teaching work these days? Like when I was teaching, you know, in Bunbury in the Southwest, the school was responsible to organise its own relief teachers.
Yep.
Right. So whereas in Victoria where I'm at, all that work is funneled through agencies, like recruitment agencies.
Oh, so call the agency.
So the agency, you set up a profile, an interview.
Yeah.
They get your record. They get the region you want to teach in, what classes, what year levels, what subjects.
Yep.
And they profile you. And then whenever work that gets farmed to them through the schools that they have partnership with, ding, Wednesday, science, I've got 5 teachers in this area that could do that. If you've put that you could work on that day, you're the first cab in the rank, job matches, you get a text message, you're on next Wednesday.
That's bizarre. It's like an Uber for teaching.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah.
So did that. And I thought this is going to take months for me to be back in the classroom. I remember sitting in July last year, I said to Nick, send me the van. I thought there's a couple of weeks, he had some functions that he needed the van to use down here.
Yeah.
So he goes, I'll send it to you end of July. So this was the start of July. So I thought, I've got 4 weeks, I'll just start this teaching thing.
Yeah.
And I hadn't put my name out for any consulting work. I hadn't reached out to my network. No one knew that I was sort of going to do that. So I that was like a Monday. Tuesday I had my police clearance. Wednesday I met the agency over the phone. They built my profile. They got me to download the app that they use, and I started filling in like next, Thursday. I'll just put the dates that I think I want to work. Yeah. And then next morning, ding, can you work this morning?
Wow. That would be surreal.
Right. And I said, well, I've made a commitment.
I've got to do it now.
I looked at Kirsten. I said, I'm off. She goes, what? I said, I'm going to do some teaching today. And she goes, didn't you just mention that idea on Monday that you were thinking about going back? I said, while you've been at work.
I've been doing this.
I've done this last couple of days. And she goes, you're freaking crazy. Yeah. I've just rocked up with this school. The nerves that I had walking in, I've got 20 years of corporate experience dealing with all types of life. I felt like I was a teenager again. Like I felt the hair. I was walking
going in with the first kiss,
first job. I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? And then I walked in, introduced myself to the principal, and he was looking at me going, and I sort of thought, well, what do I wear? Yeah. What do teachers wear these days? So I put on my slack pants and a nice business shirt, and I put it because it was a cold morning, and a jacket. And the kids looked at me and they thought I was like the guest principal. Yeah. The eyes they were like almost like there was this sort of, there's an old dude. Whoa. Stand to attention. And I hadn't even opened my mouth yet.
Oh, that's my immediate thing is 100% going into the performative side of things. You know what I mean? Like walk in and just create a way too long of a pause. Yeah. Just then like single someone out, be like, "You, what's your name?"
That was out of the fear of like being found out that I'm nervous as hell. Yeah. I went into that space. Like, so what are we doing here, kids? Yeah. And put the deep voice on, and my name's Mr. Riachi, and who are you? Let me read the role. Let me find out who you are, and put the glasses on. I felt like a grandpa, and probably amped to some of these kids, and I could have been, but day one, I walked out and I got home and I crashed. Yeah. I was shattered.
Oh, the emotional.
Just the heightened sense of, I'm back on here. Yeah. Then a few more days, and then all of a sudden the principal of the agency rings me and he says, mate, just want to reach out and say hi. Welcome. We haven't had a chance to connect. Yeah. I've had 3 schools ring up in the last 3 or 4 weeks. You've done a few days here and there and have specifically asked for you to come back. Wow. I'm like, what? How did that happen? He goes, in particular, one school has basically demanded that any relief teacher opportunities that we receive from them is they want you to fill. I just want to know why. What did you do? What did you say? And I was like, well, I've been to 3 or 4 schools in the last few weeks. Like, which school is he talking about? Yeah. And it turned out to be the school where I was a private Catholic school, and I remember walking in, and deputy welcomed me at the door and said, "Hey, we're a Catholic school. Are you a Catholic?" And I said, "Look, I'm not a practicing one, but I get the whole ethos." She goes, "We do have morning prayers, and are you happy to do morning prayers?" And I said, "Not a problem. I can do the morning prayer with the kids." And at the end of the day, because they give you a laptop and a vest and a few things that you need during the day, your tools, you're meant to return those things, check them back in, so they take your name that you bought the computer back. And I just said, I knocked on her door, said, hey, thanks so much. And she came out, had a chat, and then she got called away by a student, a parent, and someone was trying to pick up a kid or couldn't find their kid, or the kid meant to be at the bus stop but didn't turn up. And then while I'm standing, I thought, do I leave? Because we were in conversation.
Yeah, odd moment.
It was actually one of those sort of, I'll just wait. I thought, I don't want to feel like I just walked away from her. She was asking some questions. The phone rings. And it rang. And I thought, this is a school phone. I'm standing at reception. The receptionist was dealing with a kid that's fell in love and scratched his knee. Stops. Oh, thank God. And it rings again. The receptionist yells out. She goes, "Do you mind answering that?" Afternoon. St. Pat's Mentone. Bashir speaking. Wow. Yeah. I'm so-and-so. My son, I meant to pick him up from the bus stop, but I'm running late. I'm stuck in traffic. Do you mind telling little Johnny to wait for me? I'll be 10 minutes late. Yep. I've gone, what's his name? Yeah, what year is he in? Sorry, I'm just filling in today. Yeah, great. And your name is? yep, cool, no worries, thank you, Mrs. So-and-so. And I just wrote a little note. And then as I'm hanging up, the principal walks back in. She goes, what are you doing? I said, I didn't know the receptionist. I was the lady asked me to answer the phone, and Mrs. I'll just say Robinson for the sake of this exercise, and said her son. And she goes, where did you come from? So then she rang the agency. Thought, oh well, this guy showed he really cared. He didn't bother about the Catholic ethos, doing the morning prayers. I was out during my breaks. I didn't know anyone in the staff, so I just went out on the sporting field, kicked some footy balls and with the kids. Just sort of thought I want to bond with the
figure out what's going
in the
on,
atmosphere, figure out what's happening in the school, and then I was happy to stick around afterwards because usually as soon as the siren goes, the relief teachers are going, doop, I'm paid by the minute, so I'm out of here. No goodbye, no thank you, no relationship building. So the guy from the owns the agency now is one of my biggest coffee customers.
Huge.
I told him the story, and I'm consulting on a shoe brand. I'm helping some guys get some shoes into the golf industry, and the guy that runs the agency turned out to be, through coffee catch-ups, he's a president of a golf club. He's now unlocked the door for the shoe brand to go into the golf club. So I was saying the world collides. So the point I'm trying to make, I've gone a long way around it. Jake, is there's not corporate, there's not teaching, there's not hospitality, there's not coffee van. I don't see them as separate careers or separate jobs. It's just what I do.
That synchronicity you're talking about is business. Before I said I don't know what business is, that's what it is.
Relationships. Right? Like, I think, I said to I'm talking to someone who's looking for T-shirts. I know someone in T-shirts. Nothing might have come off it. But the fact that there's a relationship now that's been connected, no generation of any business, but now he knows that you're a T-shirt guy.
There's a string from this point to this point.
Something else will, in 6 months' time, maybe come out of that, may not. But you just keep building those webs, those strings. All of a sudden, 10 years down the track, you'll go, I met that guy 11 years ago.
That's something that I'm now got enough runs on the board to realise that I get excited about the idea of having conversations and having the conversations, not about the business. Because the business will happen. If you're good at what you do, and that idea that I spoke about before of like, I'm really good at the marketing and the communication they're making. It's like, all right, now let's look at our workflow. Let's look at our database. There's AI. I hate the idea of trying to figure this out. Let's look at that, right? And if you keep doing that and keep on finding the weaknesses and making them stronger, and you do that till you're back at the start and you realize you got to make that stronger again to keep up with it. It's like building a car. You have a powerful engine and a weak drive line, you don't have a good car, right? And I think that whole mentality of like realizing the synchronicity between these, synchronicity wasn't the right word there, but these conversations that you have, it's like, don't expect to make $10,000 on this phone call. Just be happy that you're talking about a $10,000 deal, The
money will do discovery. Do your discovery. Ask, I think you touched on it earlier in the conversation, ask the right questions. But even if you ask the wrong question, at the end of that doesn't really matter. You're seeking to understand. I always say, seek to understand who you're talking with, where they're coming from, build rapport, find the common ground. Like if you had to describe to someone how to build a good relationship, they're the sort of the headlines that you would use. Obviously a lot of glue that goes in between those headlines. There's a lot of things that people would do and behaviours and expectations and boundaries and whether you cross or not cross. Do I ask that question? Do I swear? Do I not swear? Like there's a lot of things. But if you're naturally inquisitive, and I think I am, like I will meet someone and the first thing go, oh, they remind me of so and so. Maybe because I'm just getting old and these are things that cross my mind. But then I'll always take interest. So what do you do? Where do you? Oh, you're from Greece. Oh, I know someone who's Greek. My dad bought his first restaurant from a Greek guy. And
do you also shave your arms?
Yeah. And they're sort of kind of the neuron points that are in my head bouncing around when I'm talking to someone. Like I'm sort of, there's like ding 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 ding. Where's the connection? And then sometimes the connection is made really quickly, and sometimes I'll walk away and think, I feel like I really connected with that human. Why? Did I not show interest?
Sounds like the same thing that I call, to me, is the what do you call it? The obsession of communication. Like I'll hang up a phone call that didn't go well. I'm like, where did I go wrong?
Yeah.
You know,
self-reflect.
Dude, I get angry when Riz is holding the phone for me when it's, business call, I'm driving, she holds the phone, puts it on speaker. And as soon as I say bye, if she doesn't wait a second and then press the phone, the end thing, I'm like, you just fucking ruined that.
Yeah. You hung up too quickly.
Yeah. Because if they're on the other end and they get through halfway through bye and then hang up, the sour taste is put in their mouth and it came from me.
He couldn't wait to get off the phone.
You know?
And then 9 out of 10 they're not. But
it doesn't matter.
It does, it doesn't
matter.
You're thinking about it.
Yeah,
right?
and the problem is next time they call me, if that is the case, they don't know why they don't like me at the start of that call, but their subconscious does.
Yeah.
Right? I'm down to like, it's an art, and I love the art.
Yeah.
You know how to like some people you can tell the way they answer the phone is how you got to finish the conversation.
Yeah.
Right. And then other people, you get 10 minutes in, you're like, this motherfucker just wants to have a chat with me. I don't have time, but I'm going to give him the chat.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And it might be to get a $500 deal in 6 months' time. I don't care.
Yeah.
Tell me about your day, Bash.
Yeah.
You know?
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
And it's like you don't get the thing you want out of it, but at least you get the satisfaction of knowing that you can end that call and you're not gonna have a twist in your stomach. Yeah. You know?
And they're called, my friend, standards. Standards.
100%.
And having understanding what you stand for, and those set of values or beliefs are a reflection of what your core is. But then it's not just I've got a set of values that I live my life with because I saw a YouTube video of some guy, some girl that talked about how important this is. So now I'm going to
mimic that
because I think that sounds really cool. It's actually really defining your value proposition and what you stand for and living your life based on those value propositions. Everything, like you said, everything else then becomes an experience.
Yeah.
Everything else just becomes a learning opportunity. Everything becomes a mistake. Everything becomes an avenue to either reinforce those stands or those standards or values, or make you create new ones.
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, one of my values is removing complexity. So when I understood that removing complexity, when I asked for 360-degree type feedback from my peers, from my workers, from my managers, and what was really, something that really stood out in common thread was they loved the fact that when we're in a difficult scenario or difficult business relationship or challenging customer environment, that they used to make the joke of, we go in the meeting room with Bash. There's no whiteboard. Find another room.
Yeah.
Because maybe it's a teacher in me that I use, and if you look at a whiteboard that I've been in a room with, it just looks like some mad scientist's mind. Yeah. There's I'll think of a word, but I'm trying to get the message out so quickly that the word will be half spelt.
Yeah.
And there'll be a line.
It's the first 3 letters and then it goes to a line.
And the scribble, and then there's a bit like a cartoon stick figure, and that represents the stakeholder that I'm referring to.
Yeah.
And so they used to say, well, you take really complex things and you make them really easy to understand. We couldn't kind of understand that message that came from the MD. We sort of stood there like, oh shit, what does he want us to do? And then you came in and went, what he actually wants you to do is go outside.
Yeah.
And think about what he said.
It's funny, this is also relevant at the moment. I just had this meeting with my mum, who's my bookkeeper, my fiance, who's my production manager person who actually does everything besides get the jobs, put them into invoice. She takes the stuff and puts it together and puts it in a box and I deliver it. So I was explaining to them, here's what we've just achieved. Here's the step that we've just come from where we're going to, and here's the result of that. And then the next step, I believe, for us involves these elements. And then I had to break down what those elements involved and why those things we're involving are important, and it's not just about what they are, but it's the subtraction of shit that isn't important, right? And then to wrap it all up at the end, which is actually these 5 boxes I put up here, that each element was one of those boxes, And then at the end, I was like, right, now here's how they're contextual to the whole picture.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you broke it down.
You can see I had to put every single element, break down, wipe it off, next element, break down, wipe it off. And I'm drawing pictures of this and that goes, see how that goes to that. And this is the workflow and here's where you fit in and here's why that notification is important to this part.
Yeah. It all connects.
Yeah.
It all connects.
And by the end of it, I'm sitting in the chair and I'm puffed. I'm like, do you understand like the idea of where I'm coming from here? And it's like, yeah, absolutely. It's like, good, because I've been obsessing about this for months, and to be able to get it out of me and for you to be able to digest it that's the first win that I need to make this happen.
Yeah.
It's
look, whiteboards, tools, PowerPoints, they're just aids.
Yeah.
They're just aids. And one of my biggest thing is when aids are misused.
Right.
You see someone, presenting, and they're using, say, the PowerPoint, and they're writing down everything that they want to say as a script on the slide, and I remember going to a presentations course, like how to present in business using PowerPoint as a tool. The presentation was, I think the course was called Powerful Presentations.
Right.
Underline powerful techniques. That was kind of using PowerPoint as a tool to help you articulate your message. If you are basically going to be a person who's going to be standing up in an audience regularly and using PowerPoint, how should you use it correctly? It was actually a course that you can attend to do that. I remember going to this thing, and the guy that ran the course said, "Who can read and listen at the same time?" I was like, "What? Of course we can read and listen at the same time."
Nah.
And he sort of picked me out and he goes, "Now, can you read that sentence?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm going to get you to read that sentence just to prove a concept to the audience that's in the room with us." It was, half a dozen people. "I want you to read that sentence. While you're reading that sentence, I'm going to just give out one set of instructions. But I want you just to focus on reading that."
Dude, he told you beforehand. You still couldn't do it, could you?
Right? And he goes, "I want you to see if you can pick up what instructions I'm asking the guys to do." And I was so like I was like, "Oh, he's testing me."
Yeah, I got to win.
I got to win this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. If science says that you can't read and listen at the same time, today is the day. I'm the outlier.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that they're gonna have to experiment on again.
Yeah.
I failed. I couldn't. I had no idea what instructions he gave.
Yeah.
Because I was reading out. And in the thing that he put on there was a really technical language, and you had to actually concentrate to read it. It wasn't. I thought he was going to put on, please turn on your computer, or something simple. I could actually still hear what he's saying. And then from that moment on, I kind of went, "Holy shit!" And then that moment, I remember very vividly. I know exactly where the course was. It was in Hawthorne. It was off Burke Road. It was in this meeting. Like, it just triggered this memory for me that never disappears. And it triggered another memory of Year 9 English class, where we had a relief teacher who was telling us how to write essays. And he gave us an example of a triangle. He goes, "Today, I'm your relief. I'm going to give you a nugget that will make you pass every essay you'll ever have to do through your school career."
Here we go.
I went, "You said what? There's a shortcut to this?
Yeah.
I can learn this shortcut and I can pass every essay?"
Yeah.
And that was like, my head just went from being, what's this guy doing? Let's give him shit, to, okay, you got me, brother.
Yeah.
And he said, he drew a triangle and he put A for audience, P for purpose, F for form. He goes, every time you ask to write an essay, before you read what the essay topic is or the question, draw this triangle and put A, audience, P, purpose, F, form.
Right.
And then ask yourself, what is the author asking me? Who's the audience that I'm going to be writing my essay to? If they don't speak English, you can't write an essay in English.
Right.
What's the language they speak? And then the purpose, what's the purpose of the question? Are you here to motivate? Are you here to educate? Are you here to inspire? Are you here to create interest? What are you here to do? So then you got to think about who my audience is, what language are they speaking, and then what's the tone of my message. If I'm here to inspire, then you need to use inspirational language.
Right.
Pick up the damn thesaurus and what words are inspirational.
Get some keywords to work with.
Get some keywords. And then the last bit, which is the form, what am I asking you? What form are you going to tell your story in? Is it pictorial? Is it written? Is it visual? Presentation course, early 2000, let's say 2012, 13.
Yep.
Year 9 lesson, 1991. It, like...
Same thing,
right?
Yeah.
And then from that moment on, I walk into a room full of nervous salespeople and they're like, I've got to present, or they ring up and say, oh, Bash, I've got to do a presentation for you next week on my business, and I'm shitting myself.
Yeah.
Like, why? Well, what's the big deal here? Oh, I'm a horrible presenter. No, you're not. I've seen you talk to customers. I've been on the road with you.
Yeah.
You're quite captivating. What's the fear of standing in front of a room, and let's unlock some of that.
Yeah.
And it's funny how as adults, as professionals, I've used that A, P, F triangle. I've used it on whiteboards in front of a room full of salespeople. I've used it in one-on-one coaching sessions. I've used it. It's just something that lesson that I've just kept passing on.
Yeah.
And it's generated so much. Oh, you've unlocked the secret to me. Young salespeople who I've mentored, who are now senior managers in businesses, will see you at a conference and they go,
APR.
APF.
Yeah, APF. Sorry.
APF.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, APF, man, you nailed that presentation. You had the audience eating out of your hand. The form that you used was, it was special. You had video, you had content, you had. So it's, but it doesn't necessarily, the lesson that I took out of that was, it doesn't have to be just in presentation techniques. If you're just having a conversation, understand the room that you're in.
That's it. The more I'm running to it, I'm like, this is basically all communication.
Read the room, brother. You hear that word,
yeah.
oh, that person didn't read the room.
Yeah.
Technically, they didn't understand the audience that they were with. They completely, fumbled their way through. Well, they didn't understand the form they needed to take. They didn't know what their purpose was.
Yeah.
Am I here to sell, or am I here to explore to be able to sell?
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like one of the organic guardrails of that technique is removing yourself from it as well. I feel like you pull yourself out of it rather than going like, my experience, this, that does fall into educating. It does fall into selling, but it also makes it about the topic that you're trying to do. You know what I mean? It doesn't remove you from it. It removes your ego from it.
Yeah. And it allows you to, and there's other techniques that you can apply, and you learn how to read a room and you know what engages. But storytelling was another one that my friends used to say, "Oh man, you've got the best memory. You remember shit that we did in high school vividly." I never practiced that. Maybe growing up as a teenager, I thought if I keep talking, if I tell a really cool story, maybe they'll like me.
Yeah, if I make them laugh.
If I make them laugh, or maybe I'll be able to connect.
Yeah.
But maybe there was a phase that you went through, and everyone goes through that in life, no doubt. Maybe not, I'm not sure. But one of the things that I've put it back down to the upbringing, the culture. The Lebanese culture is very much narrative storytelling. Let me tell you how it was in grandfather's. Like the folklore in the country was that. There was always dad and both my parents. Let me tell you a time when I did this and this. Yeah. And it wasn't just I did this and this. It was grab a seat. I got to tell the story. There's a guy called Jake, and Jake used to wear this, and the detail in the story. And you sat there, and I kind of go, wow, that was a long story, and all it needed to be was just a one-liner.
Yeah.
But maybe that was my parents' way of saying, oh, if I can kill the next hour telling a story, the kids aren't going to be mischievous.
True.
So storytelling was something that we grew up with. We all my family, all great storytellers. They'll remember, they'll remind, they'll find a connecting point in a theme. And So, but later in life, I've developed this sort of knowledge that storytelling is a form of not only communication and sharing experiences, it's actually a form of leadership.
For sure.
It's a form of leading people into a scenario, getting them to walk in. I remember doing this story when a mate of mine, Kim Sue, is another Bunbury lad that became a British Army captain.
Right.
and that was a separate story that I won't go in today. But when during his service, he would fly home for R&R weeks, and I was living in Perth at the time, and he would come and stay for a few days or a week or so, and then we'll just sort of chill out, go to the beach, go hang out, have a few beers, go and kick a soccer ball, so he can just defrag from the stresses of life that he was going through at the time.
Yeah.
And he told some amazing stories about, some of the training. I was always intrigued. Oh, you became a commando. Like what sort of shit do you got to do?
How many people you killed?
Yeah, have you shot someone?
Let's go.
Like he goes, Bash, if I did, I would never tell you.
Yeah.
Because, so that's the kind of, he kept things, I guess, to himself, but he did share some insights on some of the skills that he developed as a captain and a leader of people in battle.
Right.
And he talked about, and one of the things I remember vividly is when he did a tour of Afghanistan when the Allies went in to, who attacked the West, and the story is well documented, so I'm not going to go into detail. But when he came out of there, and he said, I said, mate, I was asking him some pointed questions like, when you're out on patrol and you're doing this, how do you keep your concentration at the highest level? That alert, He goes, when you're in a life and death scenario, your body surprises you how well it can do things, how well it performs under that type of pressure.
Yeah.
Because one of the things we learnt in the British Army is, and he did a stint with the Royal Guards where they got to stand still for so long. And have you ever stood still for more than...
Oh, it sucks.
Like it's actually not a comfortable thing. And he goes, one of the things they learn is to curl their toes inside their shoes.
There's something that's going on that isn't visible.
Which is not visible by anybody, but what it does if you're sitting down or if you're standing up in the same position, by curling your toes, it just pushes blood up and down through your veins.
Interesting.
Makes your heart pump. And so if you're a sniper and you have to lay still, you're deep breathing, but then you're curling your toes, so blood's going up and down. I might not be retelling this correctly or not factually how he
Everyone
actually said
listening
it.
to this is curling their toes.
Is that curling their toes?
Yeah.
But I've used that scenario at the start of a meeting when I started a conference, and I said, I put a picture of Kim on and he probably doesn't know this, I've used it. I've just put a picture of his face on the screen, and I said, British soldier, the story of battle, they're curling your toes, and the whole room is like, you could hear this. Like I feel like I got the room captivated. I said, the reason I'm telling you this is it's got nothing to do with what I'm about to take you through today.
Yeah.
But if you're getting tired through my presentation,
you're
feeling sleepy, curl your toes so the blood gets out of your ass and goes through your body, and you're going to be more alert.
Unreal.
Welcome to today, and today we're going to be doing this.
Yeah.
And then the amount of people years down the track from that presentation, you bump into them at a different scenario, a different business conference, and they'll come up and say, "Oh, mate, I've been curling my toes."
Yeah.
They don't remember anything about business that you talked about for 2 hours.
Yeah.
But they'll remember that. So to me, reinforce the importance of storytelling, captivating the imagination, get people on the same page, and then take them on the journey. No difference to this setting, right?
Well, I'm going to it and I'm like, where does storytelling sit in my experience? And I think I grew up with an extraordinary storyteller in my family, which is my dad. And I claim myself to be a born and bred smartass. Like, I am through and through ready to come back at anything you say with a smartass answer. And that comes from his storytelling. It's the ability to, whether it's very platonic, candid story about how we drove to the shops and we saw a crash or something. It's like, it's never just a story.
Yeah.
And it's like, I wouldn't have bought it. Wouldn't have bought a Kia. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, he rolled his car 4 times. So we drive, there's always the inflections and even the conversation that we're having, that I have on podcasts, to make it valuable on top of whatever we're talking about is tone control.
Yeah, correct.
The pause. It's I'm going to lead you in. I'm going to give you a little bit over here. I'm going to tell you the story. We're going to get a little bit down the track. I'm going to call back something. So it's this whole sort of dance that you're doing. And I think storytelling, the art of storytelling, also ties into, if I'm trying to sell to someone, well, I'm going to create a story with this person that they're going to tell someone else.
Find a connection. Find the common ground. What's the story that would deliver that?
Yeah.
it's amazing all these, like, you know, I guess you can call them lessons, Jake, like their experiences, their moments in time, moments in life, opportunities, occasions, scenarios, how they start to form, you know, form your way you view things, form the way you interpret things, and how you use them to your advantage in business or in consulting or in value exchange scenarios. It just continues to evolve and reshape. And I think the point I made earlier was I don't see myself as a teacher, although I've taught and I'm teaching. I don't see myself as this business guru, although I've been in business and have had a fortunate business career and experiences beyond my wildest dream when I was growing up in Bunbury. I never thought I'd be sitting at Olympics Games hosting a client from another country. Going,
crazy.
What am I doing here?
Yeah.
You know, like what's a kid from Bunbury doing here? You know, like those sort of pinch yourself moments. But it's so nice to be able to, like, I feel like the last few years in particular have gone from gaining stories to telling stories.
Very cool. Yeah,
like
there's
this
cool.
Paradigm shift that I feel that, like even the conference I attended that I was speaking at on Tuesday of this week, the CEO of that business is someone that I met when I was in the beverage world. We were trying to map it when we caught up for a coffee and breakfast before the conference.
Yep.
Like, when did we do this first? Like, when did this relationship begin? We mapped it out to be like 9 years, 8 or 9 or 10 years prior to this
That
week's
moment,
date.
yeah, interesting.
And that he came into the role, I was introduced to him. We formed this business-to-business relationships. He was telling me about his franchise group. I was understanding, you know, I said, what are the key calendar moments that you have this year? What are the things that you're working on? He goes, we're 3 years in. We're doing a national conference. I'm bringing, at the time, like there was 8 or 9 franchisees or franchisors in the group. So it's still relatively small.
Yeah.
And we want to bring them in. The challenge is we don't have budgets to host them at a really cool venue. You know, these are small business operators. They've got a little bit of budgets.
Yeah.
I said, dude, like, just bring them into the Coke office. We've got meeting rooms. We've got conference rooms, and you have to pay us rent for that. He said parking. So there's no parking. You know, put them up the Quest around the corner so they can all, and that's 5 minutes from your head office. So there's a great brewery in the industrial area here. We know the guy that we always go there for lunch.
Yeah, win-win-win.
We can just tap in for a decent dinner for the crew, and we can shout you some drinks during the day, put some water on the tables, and we'll dress up. I took him to the conference room so we can put the tables in different shapes. And he goes, oh, you guys just provide that. I said, mate, you're a great customer of Coca-Cola. Of course we would. You know, you're a partner. And he goes, I said, the only thing I'd ask is just maybe give me half an hour spot on the agenda so I can give them an update on what we're doing over the next 12 months, the programs that we've been rolling out over summer that could benefit from. And through that connection, through that sort of value exchange, we've now played tennis together. We've gone on golf trips together. I've left the beverage world. He continued in his role. He's now CEO of this business for 10 years. And this year marked his 10th national conference.
Right.
And he, late last year, he goes, we caught up, we're here to tennis. He goes, love for you to come and speak at our conference. And I'm like, really? Like, I'm not in the beverage world anymore. And he goes, oh, mate, it's not about that.
It's not about drinks, buddy.
You know, so
that's very cool.
So isn't that cool, right?
Yeah.
Like, so something that happened along that story that resonated, there was a value exchange. I didn't do it blindly. I didn't host them in the room knowing that there'll be nothing out of it. I knew that by bringing them in, I'm going to get an opportunity to understand them a bit more.
Yeah.
There's not going to be an opportunity in the whole year where I'm going to be able to spend 8 hours with these owners of these businesses that we're trying to sell drinks to.
And also all of them.
And all of them in the room.
At once, yeah. It's almost an advantage for you to host that.
It's a if my competitor is trying to break into their business, he's going to have to go through a lot more barriers now.
Yeah.
They may be cheaper or have a better product, but they're going to go, well, the guy hosted us at his office. He put on coffees. He was actually there making coffees for us when we arrived. And that's what happened, right? Behind the coffee machine, I'm introducing you to the Penrith franchisee. Come and say, g'day, what, latte, cappuccino?
Yeah.
come in, mate. Let me introduce you to the MD who's just in that office there.
Yeah.
MD comes in, he says a few words. Oh, welcome to Coca-Cola, and we loved having you here, and you're in great hands with Bash, and whatever you guys need, we're here to serve you, and we just love having customers come into our business, spend the day, and are we organising the bottle, like the station tour, like when they go into the bottler and they go see how the product is made?
Oh yeah.
I said, yeah, we've got a half an hour booked. I've got Rodney come and taking the guys, and they put their hairnet, and they can see the robots making the drinks, and so that experience stayed in their minds.
Yeah.
So I walk in the room now 8 years later. Now there's 24 or 25 franchisees.
Yeah.
There's probably 13 or 14 I hadn't met, don't know. But there's 2 or 3 that are still in business from 2018. And one of them, when I walked in, he goes, Bash!
Yeah.
And they're like, you know each other.
Yeah.
Like,
Through this.
I met the guy for one day.
Yeah.
So it's that's like these conversations, these experiences. I've noticed this sort of shift where I've gone from experiencing them to now it's almost flipped.
Yeah.
So
that was a vibe I got. Like for the listener, I met you for about 15 minutes at Nick's Coffee Van.
Yeah.
Got your number, and like you're telling me about a bit of your early history in Bunbury and business with Barbados and all these things, and I'm just like, who the fuck are you? Because this is blowing my mind.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm going back to Melbourne, where you live. If you're ever there, let me know. Yeah. And I've got to Melbourne like 6 months later. I'm like, I'm in Melbourne. You're like, sweet, let's have lunch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool. All right, this feels like maybe one of the coldest times to meet and learn some stuff, but cold as in, don't
have a relationship.
I don't know you.
Yeah.
And
we broke bread.
Dude, you should have heard the phone call to my fiance on the way back to the hotel. I'm like, this fucking Eddie's done this, and he gave me these five core things to focus on. I still have it written in my notes.
Oh, cool, man.
To the point where I had a walk with, someone else who's in business just yesterday or the day before, and I mentioned that you're in town, and I said, oh, do you know? Actually, he was telling me a story about Vidaro, Frank Vidaro,
yeah.
And I said, oh, he ties into the same sort of world as bloody Bash. You know Bash? Yeah. I know Nick. I kind of know Bash. Rah. I said, yeah, there's one thing there's a heap of things that he told me, but one thing that is like, you have thousands of conversations in business, and there's like some real pinnacle moments. Yeah. And you hold on to one of those moments for
sweet,
me.
Man.
Yeah. And I was like, it's one of those people where he's in town where I have to make time, because the likelihood of one of those moments happening again is extremely high.
Yeah.
And to be able to do it on a podcast is even better, because everyone else gets it.
Yeah, sweet, man. And to me, like we talked about the value proposition, one of the things I learned early in business, and it's through, I guess it started with the old man, like he was imparting these lessons on us, not with a scientific, I'm going to help you shape your future. I'll teach you this lesson. This will put you in a really good position in life. He just did it because he was like, he was fearful of us making the same mistake maybe as him and having a difficult life like he did, right? So having to live through a war-torn country, not knowing whether you're going to be alive tomorrow or not, listening to the sounds of and huddling your family into a shelter, and he's looking at my mum and where they're going, or what's happening. You'll be fine. We'll be fine. This will pass in a few hours. And he was like, he would say things like, I remember in the shop, like, treat every customer like it's your last. This could be the last meal they could afford. Make it a good one.
Wow.
Or like he would, if I'd never forgotten the lesson he gave me. There's a lady that came in the shop, and I remember he just put me on the orders, taking people's orders, and then during lunchtime on school holidays, I'd go and take an order, and the lady would say, I'll have a chicken roll with, lettuce and whatever, no carrot. And then, I'd written the order like literally word for word, but then I ran out of room, and I just put NC. But then I take that, I ripped it, and I chicken and salad roll on the pass. Now my mum and Mrs. Sharp, Kay Sharp, she they were in the kitchen making all the sandwiches. they just saw chicken. They sort of, 12-year-old writing, right?
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
decipher it. They didn't quite work out what the NC mean. So the roll comes out. I'm dropping it off. There's fucking shit ton of carrot coming out of this roll. It's shredded. It's fresh, and I shredded the carrot that morning, So, and the lady goes, sorry, young man, I didn't want any carrot. I'm going, oh, that's right. And then I'm like, oh no, that's like costing my mum and dad money. Who's going to eat this roll? And then I'd walk in and say, oh, she's just a pain in the ass, this lady. And my dad would say, what? He would grab that order off the pass. He goes, read your order again. He goes, no, chicken. Oh, there's an NC there. What's the NC? Oh, I meant to say no carrot. I said, well, how the hell your mum meant to say that when she's got 26 tickets? And then, did you just call that lady a stupid da-da-da-da?
Yeah.
She goes, she's paying us money to make her lunch. She's got half an hour. She's got to get back to work.
Yeah.
Now you just wasted 10 minutes. Pick yourself up a little bit. Lift. Those not so many kind words.
Dude, I felt that just
do
then.
you know what I mean? Like you kind of
yeah.
go, right. So, lifting the standards, and then, I get to a stage in career and they say, I had a really strong mentor. He said to me, what do you stand for? And I'm there. He's the MD of the business. I'm trying to wear the shirt, the tie. I'm trying to, when am I going to get promoted, Dave?
Yeah.
When's my next gig? I've just proved myself for the last 5 years. Like, come on, mate.
Yeah.
Show the brother some love. And he goes, we're watching you. We see your eyes. We know what you're doing, but a few things aren't quite right yet. What do you stand for? I said, mate, I'm the hardest working rep that you got in this business, and there's 4,000 of them. And, I'm the one that's outperforming everybody. He goes, no, it's not about how good you are with your results.
We got that.
We got that too. Well done, by the way. And he goes, you don't have to ask that question now. Go away and come back when you're ready. And I remember going back to him 9 months later. I worked it out. I went and got 360 reviews. I asked colleagues. And I came up with a list of 4 things. 3 things at the time. Remove complexity was number 1. To 2, fulfill your commitments. So at the early age of 31, I wrote that down. I said, if I make a commitment to somebody, that's my word, that's my brand, that's my value.
Yeah.
I promise Jake that if he ever comes to Melbourne thinking that, he's never going to fucking come to Melbourne, but if he does, I'm on the hook.
Yeah.
For lunch, for a catch-up, for a coffee. Because I've said, when you come to Melbourne,
yeah, do it.
Dial, right?
Yeah.
So when you dialed, I'm like, Kirst, I'm going to catch up with Jake. Jake who? It's a fella from Bunbury. Which fella from Bunbury? Just a mate of my brother's. He's in business. He made the shirts or going to make the shirts or whatever the timeline was. And we had lunch. We had a great experience. But the third and the value that I came up with was, so remove complexity, fulfill your commitments, and have truth and integrity. If something costs you 100, don't say to Joe, this cup of coffee, mate, I spent $8 on it. No, you didn't. It cost you $4.
Yeah.
And a few years later, I added the last one, which I've lived my life on those 4 values as being a lifelong learner. So now that I've got those, that's my brand. That's what I stand for.
Live by it.
I can't not live by it.
Yeah.
I can't tell this story and then not turn up.
Yeah.
Or you ring me, I'm in Melbourne. You said, give me a call. You delivered.
Yeah.
You turned up to Melbourne. You got my number. You said, I'll give you a buzz. And then next chat, jump on the podcast. Man, I don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Let's do it, right? Let's do it.
And here we are, buddy.
And then when he sent me the message yesterday, I thought, how the hell do you know I was in town? Like, is there a fucking video camera at Busso Airport?
Yeah.
But then Nick said, I bumped into Jake, told him that you're going to be here. I'm going to try and grab a coffee with you or something.
As soon as he told me, I'm immediately like, that motherfucker's on the podcast.
Yeah. And I thought, I got to find, where do I find time? How do we? And then I just sort of, moved a few things today, and I thought it'd be fun, catch up. Number one.
Yeah.
2, I enjoyed our dialogue, and I sort of really see what you're doing and see the journey that you're taking, the risks and the yearning and the passion and all those things.
I'm glad. I'm putting my balls on the line.
It's great, mate. It really is. There's a nice, there's risks and then there's risks.
Yeah.
Keep taking them.
Oh, dude.
Measure, learn. You're surrounded with great people. You're networking the right way. And I've said this to many people, like foundation and business that I learnt in Bunbury through starting with mum and dad's. Then I had two older brothers that were like maybe felt like it was their right. I've got a younger brother, got to just clip him on the ear just to keep him in check.
Yeah.
But also pass on some value.
Yeah.
You know, so I've always had two brothers that just always were there. Whatever adventure from a professional sense, I always knew that I could ring Nick, I could ring Sam and say, hey, I need some help, or my car's broken down. I have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
Have you put fuel in it? Oh, shit.
Oh, good question. Let me check.
Yeah. You know, like, well, there's smoke coming out of the engine. Oh, fuck, pull over.
Yeah.
Stop driving.
Yeah.
Stop driving. We'll get something picked up for you. You know, like those so that sort of level of support to opening Barbados with a number of people that I've told you about, and we decided to put these two limousines at the front, the red carpet, and make it a premium joint. No one's doing that in Bunbury. We wanted to lift the standard to everyone was doing the pub band on Friday night and the same band playing in different pubs.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Frank, Tony, and my mate Michael, who was passed since then, and we sat around with like, who's going to fucking drive two limousines like on call? I was like, I know, Nick and Sam, my brothers, and without even hesitation, there was no like, oh, let me think about it. Oh, fuck yeah, we're in. Put us in. Like I think I decided that they were going to do it before I'd even asked if they can do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's one of those risks, eh?
That was the risk, right?
Yeah.
I thought, I'm gonna back myself, and I know that my brothers, if they can't do it, they will do it for a short term anyway, and then we'll find someone who will get us through that initial
Get us through
phase.
Friday and Saturday, and we'll figure out next week.
We'll work out next week, like just a West weekend, and then all of a sudden, the two limousines that the venue bought. Fast forward 12 months later, my brothers now own those limousines.
Yeah,
that becomes their limo business, and that limo business as a business has been in the family now since 2003.
Yeah.
Right. So who would have thought? I'm sure Nick and Sam didn't think in 2003 we're about to open a brand new pub in Bunbury that they're going to become limousine drivers or operators of a business.
Yeah, and I think that's,
do you know what I mean? So it's
the theme there that I tell a lot of people this, whether it's in relationships, in life, in business. Don't trip yourself over. Get out of your own way, because a lot of the times, whatever the thing, like, you know, between you and I, no one's listening at the moment, but I'm not that passionate about clothing. I'm passionate about doing a job really, really well. And at the moment, it's clothing. And there was a time where it was driving trucks. And there was
coffee,
Yeah, there was a time where it was coffee. There was a time where it was being an athlete. And whatever the thing was, whether it was just tucking my shirt and have my boots tied up and making sure the truck was pre-started and step by step, just doing the job that I hated doing, but doing it really well.
Yeah.
And whether or not you like it or not doesn't really matter, because you're going to get a step closer to the thing you do like if you do this well. This is the thing, the kid who's flipping burgers at Hungry Jack's, and he's like, yeah, I really want to be a manager. So he goes to the boss and says, I want to be a manager. And he's like, well, you're acting like a dude who flips burgers, not like a manager.
Correct, yeah.
And why would I give you a pay rise and a promotion and more responsibility if you can't even handle tying your shoes up and tucking your shirt in? Right?
100%, mate, 100%. Going back to the compliment I was giving you, is that you're surrounded with some really great business lessons, business people in this town. You know, you just got to look around.
and listen, you know.
There's so many, you know, there's so many people that I've learnt so much life skills just by exposure.
Yeah.
Just by happen to be in that space, you know, happen to be in business at a young age, having someone, you know, took a leap of faith to get me to open a venue for them, like the Vidaras and the Panuchos, two really fantastic families in this town who have built businesses, many businesses, you know, over generations before me.
Yeah.
You know, and who have done it and who have had this experience, and they saw something in me maybe at the time to go, you've never run businesses before, but I reckon you're ballsy.
Yeah.
You're going to have a crack.
There's something there.
There's something there. And they handed over a blank check, you know, build us something. Like, you know, take the lead on running a venue, you know.
It's actually crazy when you say it like that.
When I look back, I go, what were they thinking? Like, but at the time, you know, the two guys that were running venues, there was a few of us, there's a handful of people in Bunbury nightlife that, and we were running a venue that was quite successful. was the Reef, and it was buzzing. Everybody in town turned up there every Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We'd put something on Sunday. Everyone turned up on Sunday.
Yep.
We'd bring a DJ down. Everyone turned up with the DJ. We put a modelling show on. They all came down, and all of a sudden, so we were thrown into the spotlight of hospitality venue operators that kind of knew their shit, and we just we were good kids. We were just good kids from, standard families in this town that had a job, and we were doing things that we were having fun with. We had other friends that were working with us.
Yeah.
We had this family of people that were like-minded, and we took the pleasure of, we would polish the dance floor of the Reef every Saturday morning. Literally, Jake, there was a routine where we would spend 4 hours every Saturday setting the venue up, knowing that it's going to get absolutely destroyed every Saturday. But then we would go back and we would repaint that floor, we'd re-wax it. I would go through and check every single light. And back then, before digital lighting came in, we had to put this film of filters.
Oh, no
you
way.
Cut the filters. And we had rolls and rolls of filters. And we thought, we had the blue and pink ones last week. I want the venue to look green and gold today because Australia in the rugby is playing England.
Wow, yeah.
So then we would cut yellow and green filters to put on the cans.
Yep.
So then, I could stand there a couple of times a night and go, oh, green, oh, yellow.
Yeah.
And then put a Aussie themed song and talk about the rugby and
off you go.
And off we go, right? And then people go, oh, fuck, that was so cool. And we just get the staff to wear Aussie uniform, and we just sort of sat there and go, what are we going to do this week? And plan all these things.
See, knowing that's if we sort of look at your trajectory in a very vague sense, going from writing down sandwich orders to how do we make this Saturday night the very best for our customers, to I'm sure there's a lot in between, but then going into the corporate world and how do we land this negotiation, now fast forwarding to just rocking up to the cul-de-sac with the businesses and figuring out how do we just create the best environment for these, not even customers, for these people. How do we just create something where they look forward to doing that?
Yeah.
I think that is the synchronicity again.
Yeah.
And it's like that sort of tenacity to go like, all right, so it's this Saturday, we know we did that this worked last month, this didn't work last year. Okay, what do we got on the whiteboard doing the thing? There's something about your dad going like, you fucking wasted 10 minutes of her time.
Yeah.
Where you're like, well, that thing that didn't work last year, we're not doing that.
Yeah, I'm not going to make that mistake of writing NC for no carrot again.
Right.
And then that never happened again.
Right.
I'm sure I stuffed up other orders. I'm sure. But the no carrot example.
You didn't do that thing again.
That no carrot was it.
Yeah.
And there's many of those. I can go through hundreds and thousands of examples of different jobs, different roles.
Dude.
But it's just to kind of go, I'm a product of my own upbringing. I'm a product of my own community. I'm a product of this town. I'm a product of these local businesses that took a chance. There's business leaders, that business owners, that family people, whatever they were, whoever they are, they saw something and then imparted this bit of a nugget of themselves onto me, and I just sort of grabbed it and then formed it and took it, and then I feel like in the last few years, like I said to you, it's just and it's happened organically. I haven't decided I'm going to start sharing my story. I'm going to start talking.
It's just sort of that chapter opened up, and
it's
you're like,
just opportunities just present themselves,
Yeah.
And I guess through business and through forums and through leaderships and through connections, and that's how it kind of generates. But it's just it just multiplies.
Yeah.
It's a multiplier effect.
Yeah.
You do one and, I enjoyed that. I'm going to subconsciously, I'm going to seek out these things.
Yeah.
Put
the antenna up. You're like, I'll do more of that if anyone.
And then ding, so, yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for the very long-winded compliment. I do appreciate it coming from you especially.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Like I said to you, it's just keep rocking, dude.
Yeah, doing the thing. As I mentioned as well, this podcast doesn't bring in any money at all. So if you want to support the podcast, you can jump on blackink.com.au and check out the month-by-month range that is specific to the podcast. It is the merch of the podcast. So you can show your support by jumping on there, getting yourself something that is only available this month. Is there anything you would like to depart with?
Thanks, mate. Good to catch up.
Absolutely.
Full blessings towards you, mate, and keep rocking.
Absolutely. Anyway, guys, be good to your mum because we are out.